Hey guys, it's Something Rush. The Cromwell used to be one of the most popular Tier 6 tanks in the game, but lately, with the addition of new Tier 6 tanks and meta changes, this tank has fallen out of favor in a lot of the public's eyes. So, what I'm going to be doing with today's video is I'm going to be showing you why I think this thing is better than most people think it is. Alright, so one tip to those of you who might be grinding the Cromwell as a result of this review, I'm going to give you a tip in relationship to crew. So, a lot of people don't really want to spend 1,000 gold to train their crew to 100%, so what I typically do when I'm in a situation like that is I only train the crew member that I care about, because you really don't need, for example, a radio operator at 100%. You also generally don't need a driver at 100%. Commander, yeah, it's the better the higher it is, but, you know, really the most important things, in my opinion, for most vehicles are the gunner and the loader. So what I've done to basically save myself 600 gold is I've trained both these guys to 100%, and that's going to make grinding a lot easier, and it also makes it a lot less expensive if I don't have to spend 600 gold for a full crew at 100%. So that would just be some tips. That would be a tip that applies to pretty much every grind that you'll ever do in this game. There you go. Alright, so for this review, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the stats quickly. I'm only going to talk about the ones that I think are relevant to the Cromwell, because you can go look up and read these stats for yourself if I cover something that you don't care about, but really this is all that's going to be relevant to the Cromwell. So what you'll notice when you have the Cromwell is you basically are a glass cannon. What I mean by that is the vehicle is centered around its gun and its mobility. It's a very lightweight vehicle, and the gun is basically phenomenal for most tier 6 tanks. So basically what you get with the Cromwell is you have a 75mm Vickers, whatever the fuck this is. Basically what happens is you've got 145 alpha, 145 pen, 135 damage, 0.36 accuracy, and a 2.3 second aim time. So the 2.3 second aim time is absolutely awful. You can see with mine, I have a gun lane drive on this thing. That brings it down to 2.01 second aiming time, and that makes it actually more manageable. But basically what you're going to find is when you're playing the Cromwell, you're going to be playing a DPM type of game, and that becomes even easier because this thing has -8 degrees of gun depression, which is very characteristics for most UK mediums. But that's pretty much what you get with this vehicle. It's a low alpha, somewhat reasonable pen, high DPM gun, and what you're going to find is the playstyle of this is dictated by that, because you've got, you know, low alpha gun. You're going to have to put a lot of shots out if you want to get what you consider to be reasonable damage, and so that's the gun perspective. As far as the armor goes, it's ineffective. This thing will occasionally get lucky bounces off the side of the turret like so, and like so, or maybe if someone's shooting you at this angle, you know, you can get lucky and bounce things, and you can actually also sometimes side scrape things in this vehicle, but really the armor is non-existent, and I wouldn't suggest using it. So the next relevant category is the mobility. This vehicle really shines when it comes to mobility. You've got a 23 horsepower to ton ratio, which is pretty much all that matters when it comes to mobility. The top speed is good enough at 64, and you can definitely reach that with the 23 horsepower to ton ratio. And so that's what you're going to find with this vehicle. Those are the two relevant mobility statistics that I can actually see right here. And so that's pretty much it. As far as camo goes, I mean, it's good enough. I've never really paid attention to the camo on this vehicle. It's not a camo type of vehicle, and the reason for that is it can't really do the camo sniping thing with its aim time. What you're going to find is if you're shooting people at range, you're going to have to move your gun a lot, and it's very unlikely that you're going to hit things within the first shot at least. So yeah, it's not really a camo snipey tank. As far as the equipment goes, I've already talked about the GLD. That's obviously to reduce the aim time. You can't mount a V-stab on most tier 6 mediums. I've also got a rammer, obviously faster fire rate, and then I do carry binocs. And the reason I carry binocs is because, well, if you take a look at the, where's the view range? If you take a look at the view range of the Cromwell, you've got 440 view range with my setup. Of course, I don't have 100% crew or whatever, but basically the view range on the Cromwell, in my opinion, is lackluster, and putting optics on a lackluster view range tank where you've got 360 base view range, it's like 5% or whatever, 10% of 360, it's optics, right? So it's 10%. So 36 meters extra view range, it's not worth it. I like to run binocs in tier 6 games because you just get so much more view range out of it. It's just a better bang for buck for your equipment slot, and so that's what I run. I run 40 AP, 24 APCR, and that's my Cromwell setup. Let's go play some live games and show you how this thing performs in today's meta. Alright, so for this one, we're on the map Empire's Border. It is an assault game, and what you'll find about Empire's Border, if you're in a vehicle like the Cromwell, is you're going to find that you're going to have to choose engagements that favor the close range nature of this vehicle. The Cromwell is really good at close to medium range, but on a map like this, you kind of have to be careful because there's a lot of areas where you're sniping at very long distances, and so you have to make sure you don't take those fights. Otherwise, you're just going to get wrecked by people with better gun handling than you. So as a Cromwell driver, what I would probably want to do is I either want to play the north or the south. Both sides are very similar. You never really want to go to the middle of this map because in a tank like the Cromwell, you don't have armor, and so pushing through a crossfire makes it extra bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the side that I'm most comfortable on. That's this side of the map, and we're going to play it over there. And as you can see, this is kind of what I mean by the gun handling of the Cromwell. This circle is absolutely massive, so you know you're not really going to get a lot of if you're turning your turret and stuff, it's very hard to shoot things at range. And once you get close to people, what you do is you basically take a bunch of unaimed shots really close to the enemies and like hope they go where you're aiming them, and because you've got a 3-second reload, it's actually kind of doable. So that's the general strategy to this vehicle. So what I'm going to do is we're going to pop up to this corner. We're going to wait till we see people and just use basic brawling tactics when fighting against them. The problem with a vehicle in this type of context is we are in a corner fight, and so a lot of the fighting is going to be having to shoot at people who are either A, reloading, or B, distracted. But that's what we'll see. Now, the Cromwell's kind of quick, and I would kind of expect to beat a lot of people to this flank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these bushes, and I'm actually going to set on my binocs, and that's going to allow me to spot anyone who's driving towards us. If there's no one towards us, there's someone, but if there's not many people coming towards us, we're not going to push forwards because it's very likely that they've got a lot of campers. So you can see they've got the Thunderbolt back there, and the second I move, the gun handling becomes awful. So what I need to do is I need to stay still. We're going to shoot this guy instead of the Thunderbolt because I can actually pen him. The pen on this thing isn't the greatest. And then we're going to move forward, look for shots on the side of the Thunderbolt, and this is exactly how you play this type of tank. You just shoot at people. A lot of the shots aren't going to be aimed, especially if you're not standing still, and hope they go towards where you're... Oh, that was pretty bad. Just took a hit there. So I actually just got shot by a KV-1. We also know they've got a KV-2 back there. I will not be leading the charge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to set up my binocs, and that will allow me to exceed the view range of all my teammates and hopefully spot people who are taking shots. So you can see the binocs are up, we're not spotting anyone. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to push into a KV-2 because that guy actually has the probability of actually penning me. So what we can do instead of pushing into people like KV-2s who are sniping and basically fully aimed on our Cromwell, because that would just get me one shot, is I'm going to go to the other side of the map. Actually, I don't know if I really want to drive all the way around. What I'm going to do instead is I'm actually just going to cross, and that might give me better shots on the KV-2. So this vehicle doesn't have a lot of camo. This type of play would be risky, but because of the view ranges and because I have this white circle on my map, I can kind of say this is a relatively safe play, and I can just sort of play like so to look for shots in this guy. And you can see, like, he's just going to wreck anyone he nearly hits even, so it makes things a bit difficult. Now this M4's pushed up, and that's driven this KV-2 back. We also don't have shots in the KV-1, so what I'm going to do instead is we're going to drive up to here. It looks like I might be able to play this somewhat hull down, use the gun depression of this vehicle, and get shots in the KV-2. Now the problem is we only have 7 minutes left, so I do need to keep that in mind while I'm playing this. And I don't know if I'm spotted right here, but I'd love to use this bush. So how do we do this? The first step, I think I have to assume I'm spotted right here when dealing with this KV-2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until he's unspotted. I'm going to give it about 10 seconds or so. And then once he gets unspotted and I think I can take shots at him, I'm going to do this. And now we actually have shots in this guy. And you can see because the bush is solid, I'm going to be able to put shots into him. Now, what's going to happen, and this is the problem with the Cromwell, is you're going to start shooting at people, and then pretty much immediately they're going to start falling back. And that's just part of the deal when you have 130 alpha. It's like you'll shoot at people and they'll start to fall back if they're not in the open. And so the Cromwell's great at shooting at people who are in the open, who you can engage for sustained periods of time, but it's like, if people are near cover, you're only going to do 1 or 2 shots of damage to them, and in this case it's like 170 damage or so. So I can't really push in with this KV-2 here. It's likely he'll want to poke on these guys to get shots, and that's kind of what I'm waiting for. I'm not really inclined to push on the KV-1 and the M4 with this KV-2 right here. You can see the scores are tied, so I don't really want to go killing myself just yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to camp this KV-2, and if he pokes, we'll put shots into him, try to suppress him a bit. Basically, I'm just trying to prevent the KV-2 from wrecking my teammates right here. And these guys are getting wrecked anyways, so it's not really working out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross, I'm going to auto-aim this KV-1, or actually we're going to shoot this guy instead because the KV-1's not looking at us. Go for the kill on the M4. I just want to kill these guys before the other enemies get into the fight. That KV-2 is likely to start to poke on us. Probably not me, probably the, whatever it's called to my left. I want to see if I can get shots on these guys. Good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to sort of push up, and you'll notice... that's the problem with this tank sometimes. Okay, so I just took one hit, right? And that got me totally screwed. What I'm going to do is I'm healing my radio operator. That was a bit of a mistake. Dude, come on. He penned me with HE. Like, it's not even gold HE. That's typical for the Cromwell. Trying to push in... how do I say this? From my perspective, if we had won this side of the map, we would have maybe had a chance of winning the game. So I was making a play that I thought would win us the game. In hindsight, obviously I shouldn't have made that play. I should have just sniped and sat behind my teammates. But, you know, I was making a play that either would have won us. I felt like we had a better chance at winning if we'd won the south. So I took that risk, and it didn't pay off. We'll go take a look at the end plates, and then we'll go from there. All right, so that was 15-23, win 8, 836 damage. We ended up getting 1 kill. That's why the win 8 was so low in that game. We came 3rd place on the team. You know, when you 836 damage is a really good result for most people. It's an acceptable result for me when my team has lost by 7 tanks. That's kind of what you see. Like, that's the actual problem with the Cromwell. You saw how careful I was when dealing with the KB2 on the enemy team who was sniping. And the reason I was careful with him is, like, because that thing can pen you. And obviously we ended up getting penned by this guy shooting his derp gun for like 400 damage right there. And so, you know, that's an actual detriment of the Cromwell. But you also kind of got to see me use my gun effectively by shooting at people and being somewhat aggressive at the same time. And so it does work out. For this one, we're bottom tier, which is actually kind of what I wanted to show with this vehicle. So, as you saw last game, the Cromwell really suffers when it's against derp guns. So people like the KV2, the M4 with the derp, you know, and so on and so forth really destroy this tank. When you're on a map like Malinovka and the enemy has 2 arty, you're going to notice that my play is going to be totally... I'm going to be a lot more passive because of the arty, especially towards the middle of the game. By that time, arty has kind of set itself up and they're ready to shoot at you. So, you know, we're going to have to be aware of that. Now, in this case, we're bottom tier. So one thing that you can do if you're in a Cromwell and you're bottom tier, really any tier 6 tank really is take a position early on, shoot people who are driving into position, and then understand that you're not going to be useful for the middle of the game. You're not going to be useful against fighting like VKs, P44s, etc. So what you have to do is you kind of have to wait for them to die out, and then once the game has progressed, you're going to be able to use your mobility a lot more, and that's kind of when vehicles like the Cromwell shine. So what I'm going to do... A lot of people will compare the Cromwell to light tanks, and that's because the Cromwell can scout. Unlike most medium tanks, a lot of people say most mediums can scout. The Cromwell is one of the rare mediums that actually can reliably do it, in my opinion. So what we're going to do is I'm going to focus on going to B9, and we're going to set up our binocs, and then we're going to spot anyone who drives up the A line to get to the hill. Hopefully that can give my arty some early shots, maybe allow my heavies to make informed decisions when they're coming to the hill, and so on. Now, it looks like the T50-2 is going to be stealing my eyes. That's okay. If he dies, I will be in a position to back him up. And then once this guy sort of... once the enemies start to get up onto the hill, we're just going to run away and sort of see how it goes, because I really don't know. It's very common for heavies to just camp back here, and as a Cromwell, you know, I can't go win the hill for my team by myself when I'm bottom tier. So that's just sort of the way... this will work. You can see the enemy's got a comet coming up here, and that's actually really bad for me because the comet's really strong. What you can do, and this is what I was planning on doing, is just sort of sitting in this bush, gonna set up my binocs. Once they're up, we'll see if we spot anything. It actually has taken us a bit long to get here, so not the greatest, but you do see we do spot this guy. There is this comet right here who's driving directly towards us. Now, that's not good. Oh, no. This is not good at all. We're gonna have to run away. It has cost us some HP. I'm getting really lucky here because you'll notice this comet isn't shooting at me. So I did take a hit from the P44 Pantera. It's lucky the comet didn't like chase me down and do more damage to me, but I'm gonna take advantage of the fact that he was so passive, and we're gonna continue to play the hill. The reason I can do this is because we have a lot of... fuck. Okay. So, we don't have a lot of support right here. I saw these guys and kind of just assumed they were coming up. The problem is tanks like this IS are sniping at the KV2, and what that's going to result in is the enemy heavies getting up to a 0 or so, and they're going to be hulled down against my Cromwell. So I can't take a fight against tier 8 heavies that are hulled down, or even tier 7 heavies that are hulled down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fall back, and a really good position if you've decided to give up the hill is roughly F6. If you've ever watched games of TDs that do well on this map, it's always from this position or way back here, and so I always like to go to F6 because that gives you shots on people who are on the hill and they're relatively reasonable. Now, as a Cromwell, this is not where this vehicle's designed to fight, right? Like, I'd rather be sort of mid-range, fighting people, using gun depression, using DPM, stuff like that. This type of fight is sort of really good if you have high alpha and so on and so forth. I just got hit by a Hellcat. He had, like, He must have hit the side of my turret, in my opinion. That sucks. It is what it is, though. We're now a one-shot. But, you know, like I was saying, it's like this is not an ideal fight because what's going to happen is people are going to poke on me for like a second. I'll put one shot into him, get 135 damage, and then they're going to get safe. So it's like it's hard to make things work from here, but because of the situation, I have to. I don't really have any other choice. Now, there is a VK here. I won't have shots on him. So I'm basically just going to continue to wait. Now, what do we know so far? Well, it looks like we're going to win the hill. So my team's probably going to win the hill. That's just based on numbers. Looks like we've got 1, 2, 3 versus 3, but based on our HP, I think we'll win that one. If we win the hill, I can always retake the hill. I don't know if it's really worth it with 230 HP. You can see I'm not really getting shots right here. So maybe playing the hill would be smart. The problem is I'm a one-shot, and if I were to make a mistake, that would just get me killed. So what I think I'm going to do instead is I'm going to sit in this bush. I'm assuming I'm not spotted at this point, and I'm going to set my binocs up. That might allow me to spot someone who's being like an idiot light tank driver. You'll notice their MT25 hasn't been lit all game, so we can actually kind of assume he's in one of these bushes here. Because of my HP, I'm not going to be blind firing the bushes, but we can safely assume that. So I'm going to have to be making plays, assuming they've got a light tank in F4 or so. Now, the next thing is it's disappointing. We're not getting shots in the hill, so I'm going to have to move. The reason we're not getting shots in the hill, in my opinion, is because these guys are playing the low road on the hill on Malinovka. So what's going to happen is the enemies are basically above them, and anyone who's in this 45 TP's position is going to be very useful. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be moving to this 45 TP's position. We're going to load APCR because the accuracy, you know, it's 0.36. It's not the greatest. So what we're going to do is we're going to load APCR, and we're going to be going for the lower plates of vehicles if we get the chance, and then we're going to be playing the camo snipe game. So I'm not going to be able to do anything against the T29. You can see fully aimed, this is how big my circle is, so my shots could land anywhere in that. It's like a lot of these aren't likely to pen, so I need to wait for these guys to like make it really easy for me. And I mean, that's might be worth taking, but it's not going to be consistent, and we're just going to have to take shots that might work. And as these guys sort of push on to my one-shot IS, we might be able to get more shots out onto them. It's very unlikely, but this is the best place for me to be right now, given the context of this game. So this IS, he's fallen down. The enemy are likely to start to push into us. As that happens, I'm going to be putting shots into them. And then at a certain point in time, these guys are going to die. They're not going to be based. I'm going to become the front lines, and I'm going to have to fall back once again because I'm a Cromwell with no HP and no armor. So what I want to do almost is I want to spot for this Hellcat. It's kind of hard, though, given my position, right? Because if they push onto this Hellcat, I need to know so I at least have shots in them while I do that. Because it's very likely that they just drive up to him without getting spotted. So you can see I pushed forward. I actually ended up spotting the Cromwell, and that's exactly what I needed to do. This guy's a two-shot. We're going to put one shot into him. That one bounces, unfortunately. He might be inclined to poke back again to see if he can get more shots. If he does that, I'll put one into him, but we'll see about that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drive forwards, and this is bush work, right? We're just playing the bush game right here. We're going to set up our binocs because he could be in this bush here, and fuck's sake, man. I would expect the Comet to start pushing in about now. Charioteer killed the Hellcat. I thought that was the Comet, but there you go. There's the Comet. So he's moved up. He probably knows he's spotted. He dies. We get the spotting damage for that, which is perfect. And this is where I would actually start to retake the hill. So even though I'm a one-shot Cromwell, and you can see I've lost a lot of my HP, about 500, and I've only done 256 damage, this is where having the binocs and being a Cromwell is really important if you actually want to start winning games. So what I'm going to do is I've got shots in this guy. You can see the gun handling totally screws this thing over. I'm only going to get 1 or 2 shots into this Charioteer as he drives towards us. He's stunned. I can take these. I was worried he would spot me as he shoots, but because he's stunned, he won't spot me. And I don't have 6th sense. Now he's not stunned anymore. That's not good. I want to get safe here. I don't want to die. I'm worried he's going to spot me, so it's not really worth the risk. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drive up the hill a bit more, and then maybe we can get better shots than this guy who's now a one-shot. And you can see, look at the size of that gun handle, like the gun circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take shots at this building to try to kill it. We can kill the Charioteer. Good. And now I'm actually going to return to my original position, and we're going to look for shots on really anyone we can get shots on. I would expect that Charioteer to have started to move up towards the hill. So it's a risk, right? When I play here, I would expect the P44 Pantera, sorry, to be right here. Like, that would be the best play for him to make right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check that and hope he's not here, because if he is, I'll die. There he is. Okay, that's good enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to load APCR for this guy. We're going to put shots into him at range. and he's not looking at me. So I don't know if he'll spot me. We'll put one shot into him at least. He might have spotted me here. If he begins to look at me, I'll just assume I'm spotted. He died, so I'm still going to just assume I'm spotted. I'm going to fall back. And the reason I'm falling back, like, I don't want to die. If I get 3 more shots of damage, I'll consider that a good game. So what I'm going to do is we're going to dive off this cliff, and then we're going to set up our binocs to try to spot the Hellcat and maybe any arties. And the goal from here is actually just going to be to get 3 to 5 more shots of damage and just kind of have an actually acceptable game, you know. We've been at 200 this entire game, but you can see how living when you're bottom tier is so important. We tried to be aggressive, it didn't work out. That will happen sometimes, but you know, this is kind of where this type of tank actually starts to do well. So I know the Hellcat was last spotted about in this area, so based on his last position, I'm actually not going to light him. What I want to do, because I am a one-shot to the Hellcat and any of the clickers, is I don't want to be leading the charge. It's actually not good for these heavies to be leading the charge either. You can see the Hellcat just fired. He didn't get spotted, so what that means is I'm not in a position to spot the Hellcat when he fires. So what I'm going to do is we're going to move up to here, and I don't have 6th sense, so I know I'm not spotted, but you can see I spot the Hellcat. Oh no. Oh no. That guy gets the kill. I thought I was going to die right there, but you know, the Hellcat dies, which is great. Now we're kind of in a position to start moving in because the MT25 can't one-shot me. The Artie can and probably will one-shot me, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to spot them for the IS with the expectation that I might die, but it looks like he's being the one spotting. Okay, so with that IS pushing in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take cover from the clickers. Oh, hello. I knew I was probably going to die. You can see the gun handling on this makes it really hard to deal with people if they catch you by surprise. We put a shot into the AMX. Put another one. That's 2. I want to get 1 more kill. Fuck. Auto aim sucks, man. Let's see. Hopefully he doesn't ram kill me. Oh my god. Can I blame the gun handling, please? Let's see if we can get the kill. Good. That's where the fire rate helps, because sometimes you'll get lucky and you'll be able to finish off people that you're not aimed at. And that's a 3-kill, 999 damage game. Huh, I'm actually pretty happy with that, considering I was bottom tier. You can see the win rate wasn't the greatest. Neither of these games were up to standard, like what I would consider to be good games in my Cromwell. They're both below average, actually, but I figured, you know, might as well show games. First of all, this took 2 games to make, but both of these games are games that I had trouble with, and so you can actually see what it's like when the Cromwell is somewhat difficult to play based on the circumstances. You can see our IS did a fantastic job with 2,300 damage, and I kind of just got a lot of damage towards the end, but it's like if you're grinding this tank and you want to grind efficiently and you like having a high average XP per game, that's how you're going to have to play. Is a lot of it's going to be sometimes you're going to have to be in situations where you're waiting, just trying to make the most of situations that haven't worked out for you. And I figure this is actually going to be like what the Cromwell will look like when things are going badly for you. So hopefully this review was enjoyable to watch. This is pretty much how this thing plays when, like I said, things are going badly for you. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more, be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button. Let me know what you think of this review. I hope I showed you how to actually play the Cromwell in this one. Yeah, I'm going to call it here. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.